I'm on? All right, great. I get a do-over. How often do you get a do-over? All right. Hi, welcome to the stream. This is another death. Jesus. I got myself in my audio. This has been fantastically terrible stream start. Jesus. We're all very, very tired. It's been a week, as all of you know. Yeah, we're obviously we're the studio who launched Beyond the Steel Sky just a few days ago. Which seems a few hours ago and simultaneously 500 years ago, I think. I think Em agrees. Anyway, yeah, so we launched Beyond the Steel Sky, which was the long-awaited sequel to Beneath the Steel Sky. 25 years in the making. Blood, sweat, and tears from the whole team. We launched it successfully in Apple Arcade and now a few days ago on Steam, and it's been phenomenal. First patch is out. Next patch for Apple Arcade incoming. But yeah, we're really looking forward to this stream because I don't get to really highlight and focus on just one developer that often. And M really stands out to me because they are an animator. And that sounds like something that's so vague. But the more you talk to M is so quiet, but the more you talk to M, the more you go like, what's going on there? I need to share this with the world. So they're a really, really interesting person. But I think you should introduce yourself actually, right? Looking over there. Is that the right direction? I think so. Yeah, go on.
Hey
You
there, thank you,
talk.
Wendy. So yeah, hi there. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. And I look forward to talking to you more about the animation processes behind the making of Beyond the Steel Sky. So as for me, I'm someone who changed career to do animation about 5 years ago. I did a master's degree in order to kind of get involved in that. But that was off the back of a bunch of drawing and painting that I sent them in my portfolio, and also video of animation related work that I'd done in my previous career as a games designer. Um, and in the past, I've worked with companies like Ninja Theory, Creative Assembly, Square Enix, and others. Um,
We
and
brushed
so
over that portfolio, Jesus.
we're talking about Beyond the Still Sky here, the stuff in the past. So I've been animating as my full-time job for about 3 years now, and most of that has it's been my pleasure to work on Beyond the Still Sky for most of that. Yeah.
Cool.
I was the first member of the animation team brought in-house on Beyond the Still Sky, and I was initially making a lot of placeholder animations to aid in the design process. So that was quite fun, creating just making playing the game and reviewing, does this design work, does this design not work, makes it feel a lot more real. And so that was quite a fun way to just get involved in the project from the start and be doing something really useful, because we replace those placeholder animations later on with the final animations, and then the final animations are polished until the game ships. um, and for most of that time we've been using motion capture. So we've had a couple of different technologies. We started out using Connect 2 sensors, and
Wait,
we
wait, 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 wait. You cannot go on. Say
right,
connect two sensors and just like go on. Oh, sorry
right,
about the
yeah.
siren. Go on, go
So,
on.
so to talk more about that, when I first joined, one of my colleagues showed me this is the motion capture room, and there were, at the time we had Connect 1 sensors. So there were two of them, one in each corner of this quite compact room, because the middle of York, we have quite a quite a compact studio there. And this is a room where you can turn on the Kinects, perform your motion capture in front of them, where you need to calibrate the system first, then perform the motion capture you want to do, perform the move that you want to do in front of the cameras, and then you sort of head back to your desk, where the recordings, you can then process them, and it turns sort of two 3D camera views into a human skeleton that's doing more or less what you were doing in the room. Um, we
Fascinating.
then
Anyone could do that, right? I mean, like not anyone could do that, but
That's
like
right, yeah.
that's like a very home setup. That's insane.
It's pretty cool. One of the things I like about it, even if you then upgrade to Connect 2, which is what we did after a few months, um, it's still like for less than what you pay for a console, you have the equipment that you need to do motion capture in your own home and create animations that are 30 frames a second that you can then polish up to the standard that you would put in a video game like Beyond the Still Sky or like any, you know, high profile hundreds of hundreds of animation team assets.
That is so cool. I would have never thought that the Kinect sensors were that actually that capable. That is insane.
It's the software behind it's very clever, and I think certainly the Kinect one is really basic, but what's clever going on behind it is the software that then looks at these images and says, but I can tell that this is a skeleton and this is a spine and these are shoulders and this is the head and here are the elbows. So it's actually the software behind it that's calculating that it's looking at a human skeleton and interprets what it sees. Because if you just look at the data, it's just kind of a colorful image with things that are close to the camera more yellow than things that are further away from the camera.
That is so cool. Sorry,
Yeah.
I interrupted your flow. Sorry, I was completely in there. See, that's what I mean when I say that Em is really fascinating to talk to. Like I literally, this is just a stream that I needed to make with everyone because this is selfish of me to hog Em just for myself. This is just a conversation we would have anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So there were some animations that we didn't do using motion capture. Oh, hang on. Before I should move on to Connect and say that before Christmas this year, we purchased a motion capture suit by a company called Xsense. So that technology is a lot more advanced. Not your sort of, I can, as a hobbyist, kind of buy this myself without sort of seriously checking my bank balance. So
Cool
we got an
picture.
Xsense suit in the office. Do I have a picture?
No.
No.
I mean, I've seen a picture like when I went through the newsletters in the back end.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there's a picture of
I
you
remember
just
that
like
photo shoot
holding
now.
it. Like looking like the Flash, just with more light bulbs.
I haven't even seen that, so I can't even feel embarrassed about it. I'm
I'll
sure I
tweet
look
it
silly,
later.
but
I
that's
promise
good.
I'll share it.
Yeah, so we got the accent suit when that has 17 accelerometer and magnetometer censored, like I'm using the word sensor too many times. So that's the technology that is in these tiny sensors that are sort of about this big. And you have 17 on them on your hands, your wrists, your head, your feet. And you have a lycra suit with little bits of Velcro so that you can put them in and they're going to be in the right place. And that it was a way of the great thing about that is it doesn't use cameras. So I was watching some videos with Andy Serkis recently, and all of that motion capture is invariably done using lots and lots of cameras looking at these. They're not sort of smart sensors themselves, but they're dots that are then sensed where they are in space by like a massive array of cameras. And for that, you need a studio. You need to have quite a lot of space as well to be able to do that sort of motion capture. And the Accent suit really lets you do motion capture of a similar level of quality, but you're much less restricted as to the space that you need and the equipment that you need. So it fits into a hard flight case, and you can sort of trolley it around with you on the train or take it in a
Oh,
car to
where are
your
you
destination.
going? You're like online.
But it's amazing because you can put the suit on and then calibrate the suit. That process takes about 10 minutes. Then you can sort of see yourself. And I'll show some video later of not live footage, but footage that was captured for some of the animations that went into the game. But this mannequin who's doing the actions is effectively sort of copying me in real time, doing the same actions that I'm performing.
Also, like, of course, it would take so much less space because you don't have to have the distance between your body and the camera, right? You don't have to like make sure that everything is captured. Um,
Mm.
so that's pretty cool. Ooh, sorry, traffic's been horrible here. I
Uh-huh.
see the honking. Jesus. Anyway, sorry, I sidetracked you again. Go on.
Not at all, not at all. And there was also a strong role on this project for hand-keyed animation as well, because we're not a game which has super realistic graphics. We're not The Last of Us Part 2. We have very stylized characters. We have very exaggerated personalities. Oh, we have fairly exaggerated personalities. They're really interesting wide cast of characters, and we also had characters. One of the challenges that we had was we have characters with different postures as well. So Hobsworth is kind of a bit hunched over a little bit, and Wendell kind of leans back to counterweight his belly when he walks.
Same.
Yeah, no, not. And then we had characters who are kids, and Ember's a teenager, so she's sort of a big kid. She's not fully grown, but she's quite adult in her demeanor and the way that she carries herself. So there's just a huge variety of personalities in the game. It's a game with a lot of personality, and the different postures that the characters had really meant that we could put some of that, really enhance the way we could put some of that personality into the animations as well. But I will say, I'd like us to do fewer characters.
Said every developer ever.
Ever.
I'm
We have
pretty sure
about 20 major human characters, and that's not counting the robots, and that's not counting the animals like the droids, and that's not counting minor characters like everybody populating the plaza who walks around and sits down and has a can of spankles. And yeah, we have a lot of significant characters to animate.
people are, by the way, in the chat, I saw a comment about the robots, I think. The animation is great in the game. The lip sync is really good. How was that done by hand? Oh, that's a different comment. But do you want to take it on?
Yeah, totally. The lip sync was done algorithmically, so we are using a third-party software solution for that. And the wonderful thing about that is you can be playing the game in French, and the characters will be speaking French properly.
And we know you want that. It's being recorded in German and French right now. Please
Yeah,
don't
I'm
be
aware
mad at
that
us. It's gonna come. It's gonna be free.
I'm aware that there's a bit of process with the voice recording having been held up by the current pandemic, and then the lip sync
Yeah.
processing will happen after we've got the voice recording so that it times to that perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like working with different countries through the pandemic, we always have to make sure like how is their lockdown protocol, like how are they working, stuff like that. But yeah, oh, there it was, right after the comment that I threw at you was, it's great to see the robots so animated as well. Yeah. So you did the robots as well, did you?
I didn't do any of the robots. I did animate some of the gangs, but the robots have largely been handled by Fred, who's come along to the project since over a year ago and has just been a real champion in particular at animating those. I think they've had a lot of opportunity to again put some real personality into them. So I think characters like 4YR are easily, as full of personality as the humans as well. So they've done a great job with those. And I
He's
think
one of my favorites.
Mark has also been animating robots as well. So yeah. Well, I think at the peak we've had I actually looked at the credits because I haven't been keeping track. It's my line manager who's been managing all the logistics and all the sort of process of ensuring that we could get the game out on time. So I looked in the credits and saw that we had like 9 or 10 animators at the peak. Yeah.
Yeah. While we're a very small core team, of course, a game like this, I think it's easy to forget that a game like this takes a lot of hands, especially when it's working to a deadline. So I'm very impressed with how much help this game had over the time, like how many people put actual work into it. It's really lovely to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I distract you again.
No, not at all. I would riff off that. Yeah, that it's been a great team effort. It has involved a lot of people, but at the same time, it's still felt quite cozy as well. It's felt that I've known everyone on the animation team by first name and and sort of been able to answer people's questions when it's been like, oh, this isn't working, and quick trying to figure out an answer. Yeah, sure. So yeah, and I've had really great feedback from freelance animators about how friendly a team it's been to work with. So yeah, I'm just full of praise for the team.
You're
Yeah.
really humble. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing and what you did.
Mhm.
Where are we at in our notes here? I lost our space. I'm sorry. We keep notes
We
because Em has so much to talk about. I actually didn't sneak peek the notes. I wanted to be surprised. So this is
Oh,
also
really?
a stream that I'm watching this just as much as everybody else is.
Surprised in a good way, I hope.
I hope.
So I did want to say, before we move on to mocap, before we move into more of a deeper dive into the motion capture processes, that most recently I've been working on facial expressions, particularly for our cinematic cutscenes and the key story cutscenes. We've had over 40 of those. So I've been really kind of handcrafting the facial expressions for those. But yeah, so on to motion capture. Some of this we've covered already.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
let's call on Kira to bring up. I've prepared a couple of videos to show, but if you could bring up Ratgirl's video, that would be great.
The seal on the floor showed my buddy Joey just as I remembered him, when I left him in charge all those years ago.
Is what the technician will see, or the animator who's performing the sort of more technical part of the motion capture will see when the animator who's doing the acting bit is in the motion capture suit. Cool. So this is quite a fun scene early on in Act 2 where you meet this character called Ratgirl who's got quite a confrontational attitude towards Foster for seemingly no reason at all. And this was quite a fun scene to get into the motion capture suit to do. I think, as I've mentioned, that we have some pretty fun characters. So Ratgirl is rebellious. She's looking to get into a scrap. She's confident. She's scrappy. We didn't have voice recording by the point that I recorded this, so sometimes you have the audio and you can also kind of listen to the character and get a feel for what sort of personality they have as well. Sometimes I've even been performing alongside the audio, or one of my colleagues has been performing alongside the audio, which helps to just kind of bring that voice actor's performance into the animation as well. So yeah, I can't actually see the video, but I think there's loads
I
of cool stuff to pick out from this. I think one of the things with motion capture is that you get a lot of natural body mechanics out of it. And if you really, you sort of put on the suit, read up about the character, kind of do a bit of rehearsal, and you just kind of become that character as best as you can. So I'm not a trained actor, but there's a great book by a guy called Ed Hooks, which is called Acting for Animators, which has sort of helped me out a bit. And I've sort of asked friends of mine who are in the acting profession, can you give me some tips? Can you kind of just help me learn a bit about method acting, about kind of thinking like the character, kind of getting into the mindset of what the character's thinking before they enter the shot, even what they're thinking kind of after they leave the shot. So and then you just perform, you just sort of like things like the way she sort of swings her arm after shouldering Foster. That is an example of body mechanics. So an animator who is creating the animation from scratch, they'll be looking to add what they call follow through, which is that sort of additional movement. So the key action ends, but then the limb is still kind of doing, the momentum is still carried on in the limb that has just done the motion, and throughout the character's body as well. Like I like in this shot how there's quite a lot of shoulder tilt that I see going on, and sort of shoulder rotation as well. Like as she takes a stride forward, she kind of flicks the corresponding shoulder back as well. And I think that kind of just, like, I'm not thinking consciously about I'm going to move my shoulders like this when I perform the animation, but it just kind of emerges from you putting yourself in the shoes of the character, wearing the suit, and just loosening up and having fun. I think, and it is quite fun. It's I think some characters are more fun than others. Some moves are a bit more fun than others, and sometimes it just depends on the mindset that you're in at the time as well. But you just do your best in the suit and try and get the best performance you can out of what you can do during that time.
Listening to that explanation, I've been watching the video very closely. Damn, like that gives so much context to like I would never have thought of the follow through of the arm, of the limb like waving, because so did you touch that up later as well?
This animation was touched up either by one of my colleagues. I'm not sure who. Probably Mark, I think. And there are little details that you can see, like in the performance, the character sort of looks down at the floor before stepping back, and whoever's touched it up has taken that out. So she's just looking at Foster. So she kind of keeps that sort of, I'm looking at you, do you want to come and have a piece of me? Sort of aggression and confrontation is kept on by deleting that part from the mocap and instead authoring what you want the character to be doing that's more fitting to convey what you aim to convey. So yeah, this would have been cleaned up. I think this one, some of them require more cleanup than others. This one looks, from just looking at the video, it looks pretty similar from the Xsense Mannequin compared to the character performance in the final result in the game. And some of them we haven't had to do, we've just had to have quite a light touch. Others of them have required a bit more, like it's not just something that's part of the performance, like when the character looked on the floor, that is, I'm saying now she's looking at Foster. Sometimes you do get glitches in the recordings, like sometimes the feet are kind of a bit wobbly, and you usually have to clean up the feet because
but so did Avatar,
yeah, absolutely.
and that movie went bonkers. So
well, Avatar was, I can't remember how long that was ago, or 8 years ago, something like that. So
probably you wouldn't believe it by the way dads talk about it, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, but it's the case that the technology that we're using that's now accessible, is possibly the equivalent of the technology that was absolutely bleeding edge, 8 or 10 years ago. So it's exciting. It is a field that's moving quickly. They're going to put us out of a job having animal characters that just use machine learning to learn how to walk and jump over things and hunt and behave like they're real. So
yeah, I'm quite a fan of games that move away from this like hyper photorealism, because like personally I kind of like the stylizing of games. I like it when they have like a little bit of I am almost more comfortable when they're like a little bit like more stylized and a little bit more like not as smooth as like humans would move, because it freaks me out. It does.
I think that's a really important point, because just recently with The Last of Us Part 2 coming out, I've seen a lot of focus online in animation communities going, this is amazing, just look at this incredible technology. And
look
it
how
is
they took the
absolutely
t-shirt off over the back, and you're just like looking at that going like, that must have taken 8 months of polish to take a t-shirt off like that over your back. I kept looking at it thinking, why?
About, but yeah.
Somebody was really flexing. Like somebody was like, please, to the producer, please, can I work on this for 8 months? They were like, okay, but only you. That's the only way that I can imagine that happening.
I've heard stories like, someone on the second Avengers movie spent 6 to 8 months just sculpting the pores on the Hulk, like the pores on the skin of the Hulk are sort of sculpted by hand by an artist.
Yeah, of course. Like it's amazing when you hear this, because like as an outstanding person, you don't understand that when like Pixar zooms to like a face that has like literal little cheek hairs on them, like the little peach fluff, like that is made by hand by a starving artist in Hollywood somewhere. Fucking sit somewhere there just going like, I cannot look at Peach hair anymore. They can never kiss another person's cheek anymore. they're just doomed never to enjoy that because they're teetling around with this for a trailer alone that would probably taken half their life. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh, I should steer this back to Beyond a Still Sky. Yeah, I've got a fun little story here about one time I was performing as a character who was very angry in this particular scene. And so I was in the suit, I was in the corridor at work, I was shouting, I was banging on the walls, and my colleague came out from the other room and was like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Actually, I think I finished acting. And it was, it became clear that I wasn't screaming at my ex-husband on the phone or anything like that. I don't have an ex-husband, for example.
You know how much anger you've had to have expressed that a British person would come up to you in a corridor and ask what's wrong?
I think we were working like after hours to an extent. Like we don't do crazy late hours. Well, not everyone does crazy late hours at Revolution Software. In fact, we're quite conscientious to be sane in terms of working crunch or not working crunch. But it was like 7 o'clock in the evening, so it wasn't a time you would, be expected, or actually, yeah. My colleague came out because he was concerned that someone was having a fight. So
yeah, of course. No, I mean, like just to circle back to crunch, nobody's asking any of us to work late. No one. If you see me at Discord at 2 a.m., that's because I am on my dumb bitch juice and I am not asleep. Like, oh, I shouldn't be saying that on stream. See, that's what little sleep does to you. But yeah, no one is being forced to work later than like 5 p.m. And sometimes we just do. Especially now that the game's out, we've been trying really hard to kind of get the extra hours in to get those patches out sooner for you. Because while development was thankfully not slowed down by COVID, because we were largely done. The last stretch is always polish, and QA. It's just making sure that we have this afforded time now that everything's a little bit slower and split out during COVID. Because we had to split up all of our equipment. We're really decentralized. Nobody's sitting in the same office together. Things that we could probably figure out within 5 minutes if we were just sitting next to each other and would observe each other doing things. Just because you are in a common space together can sometimes take hours longer because of that. It's just sadly how it is. But we would never want anyone to, break lockdown or quarantine while we just can't afford to get them sick. That's just the time we live in right now. And so everybody puts just a little bit extra effort in right now. But that's absolutely, everybody does it on their own. Like, nobody expects it. Anyway, let's go back to animation. Sorry.
So we can sort of segue in from COVID because of the situation. I took my equipment, including after a bit of back and forth about insurance. I was able to take the accent suit back to my studio at home, my my office here. And so there's a number of the animations, particularly for the cinematics, that have been captured in my kitchen, in my downstairs corridor. So that's been interesting as well, and we've had some interesting props, like I've been sort of pointing a banana threateningly down my corridor, or I've been using a kettlebell for a heavy object to, something that has that weight to it. So yeah, there's been some interesting fun times doing motion capture from home. So that's a bit about motion capture, and I'm going to move on and talk a bit about the process of making placeholder animations and the interactions that I had with the design team doing some of those. And the example I'm going to use is, there is a scene. Oh, has Wendy gone? She's coming back.
Yeah, for some reason my camera.
Okie dokie. Well, we'll see if your camera comes back. Fingers crossed. So while I'm going to be a bit.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Is that
just keep talking while I figure this one out?
Okay. Right, I'm going to try and be a bit elliptical so this doesn't. It's quite an early scene, but I don't want to give anyone spoilers if they want to have absolutely no spoilers about the game whatsoever. So there is a scene in the game where a character is giving the player hints as to the answers they need to say to some questions. And the questioning character is not aware that this character is playing charades behind them. So this is a really fun scene, and it was a scene that from the first day I stepped into the office was in the pipeline. And so I was making placeholder animations for this. And this is one of the key areas where I think placeholder animation really came into its own, because the movement is absolutely integral to the gameplay. And having a mime that isn't clear is going to affect the gameplay. Having a mime that is clear affects the gameplay. Having a mime that can clearly be one thing but also could very reasonably be interpreted as another thing was also sort of the kind of the sweet spot we were going for with this scene as well. So that involved quite a lot of prototyping, quite a lot of rapidly popping down to the mocap room, which at the time had Kinect cameras, creating the animation, getting a sort of quick and scrappy version of it into the game so that our scripter who was in charge of that scene, Lawrence, could test out how the animations worked. We could test out things like different ideas for what the correct answers for the questions were, different ideas for how this character would mime that answer or try to mime that answer. We could test out where the camera should be placed, and all sorts of things. So that was a really, really neat way of integrating the placeholder animation with the design in a very sort of well-rounded way, I think. Wendy, please say something. So no.
So sorry.
It's okay.
I don't think my internet. Oops. I've been trying.
Okay, I'm going to
this
continue.
picture handy that says OIV, technical difficulties.
Okay, I'm gonna until further
Yeah.
notice. Please butt in if you come back and there's some good and if there's a gap. But I'll continue largely as if you're not there.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah, that's perfect. No. Go on. This is
Okay,
your
great.
stage.
So this scene, we brought together kind of making the humor work, making the gameplay work together, making the animation work together. With this process of having the placeholders, have it working closely with the design team to get it to work. And there's some good examples here. Sometimes there were occasions where I didn't get quite the right direction for what I should be doing into my head before performing. So there was a part where Lawrence wanted an animation where the character sighs, and I did an animation which was like, sigh, I'm dreaming of Prince Charming, sort of sigh. Whereas what actually was required was a sigh more like, oh, you're such an idiot. So I got completely the wrong sort of feel for that animation. But the happy ending with that was that it was like, okay, so we got this animation that's not the right kind of sigh, but that's fine because I can use it somewhere else in the game. And because we were using in-house motion capture, it was just very quick to pop down to the motion capture room, re-record, process that, and get the version that was correct over to Lawrence to continue with the design work. And there were some really endearing directions that I got from the design team. I really find it memorable, a conversation that I had with Nina, and I think we might have briefly touched on this in the last stream we did just over a week ago with the character Cecily. She's a teenage character who's she's sort of quite streetwise. She's quite street smart. But Union City is all about keeping the citizens happy, and she sort of sees through that facade. She kind of sees how all is not as it should be in the ideology of Union City, and so she's very kind of she's got quite a hunched posture. She's got some quite sarcastic bit of voice that we got to kind of perform to. Like she'll say, "Oh, you know," I don't want to say the line because I don't want to sort of spoil things that you're going to come to in the game if you're not there already. But the direction I got from Nina was that her arms should be like pendulums, so her shoulders are kind of quite weighed down. And there was, again, as I'm similar to Ratgirl and that little bit of follow through that I mentioned in that animation that I showed video of earlier, Cecily also has a lot of kind of follow through with her arms sort of swinging. We actually later on kind of dialed that back a bit. We had some pickups for some of our animations because we were talking about dialogue, and if her arms are always very heavy and down by her sides, then we don't sort of see her hands, performing the talking like Italians. They talk with their hands. I'm sure that's not true of all Italians, but there are certain stereotypes, and we wanted to just have a bit more of that gesture going on, particularly when the camera is this kind of a view of the head and the chest like that. It can be a bit samey if there's not some more animation going on from the hands and the rest of the body. Which now brings me on to talking about facial animation and our cinematics. And for this, Kira, I would like you to bring up the Ember video, please. So there's no audio to this, and I'll talk over what's going on. So here is what we see in Unreal with an asset for the game called the pose asset. And in this case, it's facial expressions for Ember. So you can see that I'm demonstrating dialing in the happy pose and then the sad pose. And as the video goes on, you see there's a main 6 facial expressions, which are happy, sad, angry, fear, surprise, and disgust. And those 6 actually give you quite a good toolkit for then combining them and making more subtle facial expressions. And if the video is looping around, if you catch it on sort of the start of one of the loops, you see I dial in the happy expression, then I dial in the sad expression. And then the next thing I do is I kind of dial up happy to about 35%, and I dial in sad to a kind of around 28%. And that actually looks quite sympathetic. And if you think about it, that makes sense, because when you're showing sympathy to someone, you in part your face looks sad because you feel sort of the pain that someone else is feeling. So you look sad because it's like, yeah, I empathize with that. I'm feeling the same things that you're feeling. But you also try and look happy but not too happy, because you're showing I'm here for you, I'm supporting you at the same time, and I hope that my being here helps you to feel a bit better. So it was really interesting. And there's a whole load of research that I looked up while choosing these facial expressions to make into our main 6 expressions. It's actually taken from a system called Facial Animation Coding System, which was researched by a researcher called Paul Ekman. No, get the right name. Paul Ekman is the father of the facial actions coding system. And then that's been sort of run with for artists. There's an artist called Gary Fagan who published a book in the 70s called Facial Expressions for Artists, I think. And that really breaks down kind of the individual bits that you draw. He takes a drawing approach. So he talks about drawing how you draw the eyes a certain way for anger, how you draw the eyebrows a certain way for anger. And he really breaks it down kind of bit by bit. And I looked at a number of these different writers, researchers, artists who had looked into facial expression and how they're combined as well. And I thought, yeah, this could be a way that I hope is going to work well for Beyond a Steel Sky, in particular, in collaboration with our technical artists, principally Emanuela, who's I think credited as technical art director. We looked at how we were going to make a system that would allow a small number of artists to create interesting and dynamic and expressive facial expressions for a lot of dialogue. And because we're very much a narratively driven game, we're very much a dialogue driven game, there were a lot of dialogues that we knew we needed to create an expression library for. So this was the way we went about it. and then supplementing the main 6 expressions, there's a whole lot of adjustment expressions. For example, left brow up, right mouth corner down, left sneer. So those are broken up into left and right sides, so that though that set would then give artists a lot more flexibility if they should need it to create very, very specifically tailored animations. So yeah, that was the tool set that we created. That's what's going on in the first step of sort of under the hood of Beyond a Still Sky's facial animation system.
That is incredible. We had one question since then, which is a really good question, I think, from Ari Hovland, which is, now that the game's done, what do you do as an animator? Are you relevant for bug fixes? Are you working on a new game and something entirely different? Like for a lot of people, I think the idea of having an animator on post-launch can be confusing. So I think that would be cool to answer.
I'm continuing to support with the animation. If there's anything that comes up that's like, this needs fixing, or this looks weird, or something like that, then I will be onto that. And we also have some other members of the team still on helping out with that and doing further animation polish as well at this stage.
Yeah. The beauty about keeping a game updated as well is you have $99 in the code, $99 in the code, you patch one out, you update the build, and there's $568 in the code.
It very much feels like that, I think. Yeah. I think it's really the script team who are at the coalface of fixing the bugs, definitely.
True.
Yeah,
big shout out to them. God.
Yeah, more so than I am. And I'm spending some of my time testing the game. Back in my previous career, before I changed career to become an animator, I had a fair amount of QA experience. So I'm going around being like, projector is spelt wrong here, or there's a full stop here where there shouldn't be. So I do that sort of thing as well.
Okay. Hey, I don't know if this sidetracks you too much, and you can just say that you would rather focus on something else. But have we in the stream talked about your previous work experience? Because just a few seconds before we went live, Em dropped like a list of things they worked on, and it was like nothing to them. And I would like you to brag a little bit, because you have an impressive backlog of games that you've helped make and had influence on.
I risk giving away. I'm older than I look, so I'm told.
I thought until like 5 minutes before we pressed play, live or whatever. I thought, like, can you tell me in chat how old you think Em is? I mean, now you already know they're kind of older, but can you just tell me, if you didn't know this, how old do they look? And you can be ruthless, you can be mean. I don't care. I just want to know if you also thought that she was 21. Because I'd be very interested.
I just pretend that I'm in my mid-20s, because I've kind of had a career reset. So people are sort of expecting me to be that sort of age. So I just go along with it.
So people are aiming around like late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s. And somebody said, for my own safety, 20. Oh, Luke said, for my own safety, 23. Can you please lift the veil on your misleadingly youthful face?
Well, I started working in the games industry in 1999.
Damn.
On a game called Vagrant Story, which was on the PlayStation 1. And I was so lucky because I got to work with Square Enix as my first job in the industry. And I got to work with games that have, I don't know, Metacritic wasn't around at the time, but Vagrant Story got 40 out of 40 in Famitsu magazine, which is this sort of weekly Japanese gaming magazine that is...
Might as well have been Metacritic back then.
But I've worked on Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation 2 and on Final Fantasy X and Parasite Eve 2, not Parasite Eve, Parasite Eve 2. Some of the early games that I worked on when I was working in localization testing. So I would put the U back into Armor, and I was not having any Zs in Customize, because we're British English and we localized to British English.
Oh man, my text, like whenever people read the patch notes, I sometimes get DMs and go like, "Are you trying to say the British English or the American English?" I'm like, "I'm just trying to make it sound like somebody can understand me." I mix it up the entire time. But yeah, so Kingdom Hearts, wow. And there was another game you mentioned as well, Viking.
So I was a designer. I was working with Creative Assembly for about 18 months, during which time I was a designer on Viking Battle for Asgard. So that's probably the deepest I've sort of got into the design discipline. So I finished my degree. I moved on from working at Square Enix because I wanted to work in games design. And I've worked at a number of different studios until about 2009, when I sort of took a bit of a break from the industry and worked in games adjacent sort of stuff, where I was concentrating more on my portfolio as an illustrator, doing stuff in academia, doing a bit of teaching, doing some wacky stuff, like I was a caricature artist at Chessington World of Adventures for 3 months, which was really fun, part-time, juggling along a bunch of different things. And then I sort of decided, no, I want to get out of London. I want to get serious, and I'm going to do a master's degree, and I'm going to do 3D computer animation, because I had met a couple of people in the industry who had gone far after doing this particular course, and I thought that seems like a good ticket. Animation's fantastic, and I think I have the chops, both sort of artistic on the one side and technical on the other side, for this to be a really good career path for me. So that was what I choose to do, and I think it's working out so far.
Say so. I really love your work.
Thank you. You're
Oh
too kind,
God.
Wendy. That's most kind. Thank you.
Oh, she like Em is so humble. Like it was impossible to drag Em on the stream because it's hard. It's hard to get. It's definitely hard to get anyone from the team just saying something nice about themselves. They're all like, I need to earn people's love by making this game flawless, and like people already love it. It's okay. You can relax. You can be proud. And they're like, no, not before. Everything that I've seen is patched. Oh man. Anyway, oh, I have another question in case I'm allowed to sidetrack you some
Great,
further.
yeah, I absolutely welcome questions, because this you guys have tuned in. This is this is your free time, and make this your live stream. Yes.
So Rowan DT said, was there a particular piece of game animation that stuck with you from a game that you played growing up that's been your favorite character or thing to animate?
I'm not sure of the question. I'm not sure if that is there anything from the past before I was an animator that really inspired me and stuck with me, or if it's a question about, now that I am an animator, what am I sort of most proud of having animated? I can answer
Answer
both.
both. Yeah, let's do it.
Wow, stuff from the past. This might be quite obscure, but I really liked the animations in Battletoads on the Game Boy. Because they had a lot of weight to them, and they had freeze frames on impact as well, which means that when, like, there would be a character sort of punching another character, and that's really good. Like, his fist would become really, really big, and it would sort of freeze at the point that he hit them, and then there'd be this really big sort of follow through afterwards. So he'd be punching like this direction, and then he'd continue sort of traveling in that direction after they'd already been punched. So they just had a really good feeling of sort of weight, and it was so satisfying. I think that's one of the things about game animation, is because you're controlling it, the animation feels satisfying. It's not true with a narrative game like Beyond a Steel Sky, but it's true of action games where you're sort of doing that second-to-second gameplay and you're controlling the characters. It's split-second to split-second gameplay, and you're controlling the characters frame by frame. So, yeah. I was really excited about that, and obviously I still am if I if I just dig under the surface. And stuff I've enjoyed animating, I have actually enjoyed some of the hand animations that I've put into the game. I think, like, I did an animation of Rat Girl jumping down from spoiler alert. I'm just going to hold myself back.
Okay,
with the spoiler
just
thing there.
yeah, just say that. Jumping.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can't animate that with a motion capture suit because I would have to sort of stand on, in the second floor of something and jump off, which you can't do for health and safety reasons. So I animated that by hand. And some other stuff that was hand animated was the gang sort of pecking at the ground. There was a point quite a long time ago where we got feedback back from Charles, and Charles was like, they just look like this little sort of nodding toy. Please look at more reference of actual birds and animate them.
Like, can you please crouch down to the ground and really be a bird? Is that so hard? Here's a YouTube video. A bird could do it.
Yeah, so that was not motion capture. That was hand keyed, and it's quite fun. It's like I do like analyzing stuff, so I enjoy kind of looking at the reference and collecting the reference, looking at the reference, comparing one reference to another, comparing it to my animation, seeing where the animation falls short, looking at, the neck actually stretches out when they're pecking the ground, and then thinking of some different variations that will kind of bring some more life to it. So I do enjoy the keyframe stuff. The motion capture stuff is fun because you get in the suit, you become the character, you do your performance. And the keyframe stuff is fun because you really kind of look at this level of detail in the movement, and you sort of get very, very focused on what you're doing. And time seems to just go really, really quickly when you get really into it.
That is true. I keep saying that, but it couldn't be more true that working on this game has been simultaneously an hour and 500 years. Nothing in between. Oh yeah, low spec gamers in the chat, which hi. Any recent games that you have particularly surprised you in terms of animation, and why?
I confess, I don't play a lot of recent games.
Do you not have time?
I don't have so much free time. I recently took a course an online course on time management because I just want to be better managing my time and accomplishing more of the things I want to achieve. And
Yeah.
actually part of that is just chilling out more and enjoying games. And games I've played recently, my partner and I are playing a lot of Astroneer. I don't think that's so great from animation perspective. It's beautiful visually, and it's wonderful how much stuff you can do that the gameplay just kind of emerges from the physics simulation in that game. A bit further back, I played Breath of the Wild from start to finish. So I mentioned before that I wanted to get out of London, and of course, Revolution Software are based in York. So at some point, I moved up north, and at that point, I had a few months where I was checking out how is my job working out. I hadn't sort of moved to everything all at once, but I sort of had 3 months where my boyfriend was still down south, and I had just a lot of time that I wouldn't normally have free. So I took our Wii U and played Zelda Breath of the Wild on that, and that is a very beautiful game. And I can't talk about animations in that game without mentioning horse animations. I would love to do horse animations, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God! It's already 5:56. Get your final questions in, and let's look at our notes and see if there's anything really, really interesting that we missed out.
I haven't talked about. I can circle back to lip sync and talk about how that fits in with a facial animation. So the video of Ember earlier had her sort of pulling her surprise, afraid, happy, sad, disgust expressions. And the thing was, we did that because we knew that the lip sync, which again is circling back to a much earlier part of this live stream conversation, the lip sync, which as I said earlier, is generated algorithmically, that controls only the bottom half of the face. And the expressions control the other half of the face, more or less. Which is sort of, there's so much expression that I can't remember some of the research I was done. These researchers say things like, I'm pulling this figure out, but 80%, for example, of the expression that we read from people's faces is in the eyebrows, particularly the inner eyebrows. So when you bring the lip sync together with the facial expression animation, that's what creates the full facial performance that you see in Beyond the Steel Sky. And that's also how we didn't have to hire a massive army of animators to animate all our dialogues. We used a system that pumped out the lip sync, and we created a library of facial expressions that could then be combined with that. And it's just those 40 or so kind of key story beat cutscenes. Those have sort of more involved, kind of more hand-tweaked, hand-tailored facial animation to go with the lip sync. They still use the lip sync, but the facial expressions is a lot more carefully tailored to that particular story moment. Any questions?
Well, yeah.
Do we have more room, or are we doing?
No, it's fine. We can go a little bit over, unless Kira is gonna strangle me at exactly 6 p.m.
I turn into a pumpkin at 6.
So, with the nostalgia behind games like Beyond the Steel Sky and Broken Sword and LOT, do you find it hard updating the animation styles?
I think that's probably more a question for my boss, Such, who is the art director. So I confess I didn't have a lot of experience with Beneath the Steel Sky when I came onto the project. And I think it's really Sucha who's tied in loads of amazing key decisions as to the direction visually that we've gone, and that includes the animation as well. So I think that's more a question for Sucha, if that's not too much of a cop-out.
He is Lord of the Temptress, of course. I'm sorry. I was like, Lord of the Rings? I'm so tired. I was like, we didn't do that game, but I'm going to take credit. I mean, yeah, sorry. I'm really tired. But yeah, I could talk to you for literal hours, but the person that's streaming this technically, we promised to cut loose at 6. So I'm going to have some finishing words now. Lucas, people, quick off. We have actually something really, really cool, and you might have seen it on social media already. I'm going to post it on the Steam discussion forums in a little bit as well. We talked to Steam a lot about our first patch and the positive reception it had. Thank you all very, very, very much for all these sweet messages, for all the people who come to Discord and talk to us further about further improvements. We're now also directing our attention a little bit towards the next patch for Apple Arcade, as well as making a lot of progress on doing the next Steam patch and getting everything together. Because we don't want to make a lot of micro updates. We want to have like a nice patch so that when you see something downloaded, you don't have to have false hope. You know that there's like a lot of stuff that but maybe affected you personally that might be in there. So we talked to Steam, and they actually came back to us and said they would do another full week of the release discount and the loyalty discount. That means that, for another week, people can see Beyond the Steel Sky for 20% off. And if you own Broken Sword 5 and you've bought it through Steam, you actually get it minus 30% off. So that's a further 10% loyalty discount. So that's pretty rad. And on top of that, we went to Humble and talked to them, and they said they are matching the minus 30% for anyone who owns Broken Sword 5 over on Humble Store. So if you bought your key through Humble, you can check your newsletter. They send out weekly newsletters. They should have sent it out on Monday. And there is supposed to be a coupon that you received. And with that coupon, you can put that into the checkout and you get the game minus 30% off, just as you would on Steam. And that's just our way of being able to thank you all for supporting us and for being so kind. We know that we want to do a lot better in the upcoming updates. We are actually right now, we're buying some people time to still put together. Like I still see people online on Slack right now, which I know directly are working on trying to see if we can still submit one of the Apple Arcade patches today that should fix a lot of the issues with the low performance. Not all of the issues, but a lot of them. The solution we came to is quite clever. And I don't want to say it out loud because I fear for saying it out loud and putting this into the universe. It suddenly is not going to work. But QA has been quite dedicated and quite good at keeping our expectations exactly where they should be. But for me to give any other update on that, I need to check back to the lead in this and make sure that I'm not saying anything that could potentially mean that you don't get it until Monday, which would be sad. But yeah, long story short, loyalty discounts are coming to Steam again for another week. They're on Humble Bundle now for another week. And if you want to join us, go over to Discord. It's literally discord.gg/Revolution Software. Luke, if you're still there, please type it out for the chat. Because if I do it, it's going to be real loud with the keyboard. And yeah, thank you so much for Em also for coming to the stream. Em is fantastic. Em is also in Discord. And if you have further animation questions, feel free to add Em. I'm not sure if Em is going to respond, but I can always poke them if I see a really interesting, cool question. So don't be sad.
I love cool
don't be
questions.
Yeah, don't be fearful to kind of at us on Discord, because the worst thing that can happen is we don't respond. Don't DM maybe, because some of them are private accounts, and but you can always publicly DM tag us in Discord. This has been a ramble, and no one interrupted me. God damn it.
Thank you for inviting me on stream, Wendy. It's a privilege to speak for the animation team.
Oh man, thank you so much. And have all a nice weekend, and keep your eyes peeled on the Discord and for further updates, and see you hopefully very soon. Bye bye.